All almighties from the real martial arts divine church have surfaced except me, and even brought your 2 blood slaves, but still we are no match against Hishio. The lineage of stars may still have other experts hidden in the dark. I come to you with no other choice. Emperor God Bai Xing said respectfully. Is that so? The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows. If that is the case, let me follow you. We'll turn that Hishio into a blood slave as well. Thank you, my lord. Emperor God Bai Xing was elated, and said, I wonder if the other 2 lords are free to follow as well? H&H. The middle-aged man sneered. My 2 elder brothers are busy restoring their pinnacle fighting power. They don't have time for this. The lineage of stars do not need my elder brothers to appear. I can do it myself. The middle-aged man was not impressed. Emperor God Bai Xing's gaze moved. Indeed, unless the Sword Emperor himself came down personally, no one could stop the middle-aged man. Even if the Sword Emperor himself came down, he may not even become a worthy opponent. Emperor God Bai Xing did not hesitate any longer and brought the middle-aged man towards the city. A fierce battle was ongoing within the huge city. There were more and more cultivators in the city, staring at that one battle. For a normal cultivator, it was rare to witness battles with so many almighties. Many even recorded it with a mirroring token. While the others were attracted by the battle, Jian Wushuang was still drinking aimlessly in that tavern, unbothered by what was happening outside. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang's gaze moved. Is he here? His soul power could sense an expert was approaching. Indeed, a figure emerged from a void far away and appeared in the middle of the city, in front of all the cultivators. Leader! The 4 Sir Gods of the real martial arts divine church were delighted. Is Emperor God Bai Xing, the leader of the real martial arts divine church, has finally appeared. The surrounding cultivators all recognized Emperor God Bai Xing. Hishio stared at Emperor God Bai Xing as well. Only Jian Wushuang paid no heed to Emperor God Bai Xing, but focused on another direction instead. Sealing off space-time directly? A clever space-time seal method as well. Simply laying it down feels enough to block normal Great Emperor's transmissions. Jian Wushuang sneered. With such methods, it was no wonder Great Emperors were unable to transmit. Like Emperor God Ling Chu, after sealing off the space-time, a figure gradually appeared in the void. It was a middle-aged man in a loose silver robe. His aura was strange. It felt like an ordinary almighty, but it was definitely more than that. Bai Xing, there are too many people here. The middle-aged man looked around with his cold eyes. Please take down Hishio freely. I will handle the rest. Emperor God Bai Xing smiled. He knew what the middle-aged man meant. He did not want too much attention from the experts of that era, instructed by his 2 elder brothers. Like the last time they had handled Emperor God Ling Chu, they had handled it properly, and at a remote location, nothing had got out. But now they were in a large city in front of so many cultivators. To make sure news did not spread, the real martial arts divine church could only be crueler. I need to handle him? The middle-aged man looked over Hishio, like looking down on an ant. Hishio felt shivers running down his spine, being targeted by that middle-aged man. He had to control his trembles. He's so strong. Too strong. Hishio clenched his teeth but showed no signs of fear. After all, he was not alone. He had someone covering his back. So what if the person was strong? He could not possibly be stronger than Master, right? Hishio, you must not be the only one from lineage of stars this time. Call out to all your experts behind you. Emperor God Bai Xing laughed. He was confident with the middle-aged man behind him. At that moment, Jian Wushuang, who was drinking beside the window in the tavern, disappeared. In a moment, he appeared beside Hishio. Are you the backing behind the real martial arts divine church? A faint voice resonated. Everyone was attracted by the voice and had their eyes on the young man beside Hishio. The man was in a red robe and stood there casually. The aura of all the experts around were completely suppressed. The entire city became peaceful. This strange scene turned the faces of everyone around. Emperor God Bai Xing of the real martial arts divine church and the few Sir Gods had their eyes dead on Jian Wushuang. Their eyes were virtually popping out of their sockets. Sword Emperor! A terrifying scream came out from Sir Emocho. Sir Emocho felt his head almost exploding. He had only fear within him. Unprecedented fear, dreadful fear. This scream made the people present understand the identity of this person. They all turned fanatical. Sword Emperor! The Sword Emperor himself. Leader of the lineage of stars. The highest leader of the eternal chaotic world. The strongest in the eternal chaotic world. The legendary Sword Emperor appears in front of us? I'm not dreaming, am I? The countless cultivators were all dumbfounded. Some almost slapped themselves to make sure it was not a dream. The leader of the eternal chaotic world, Sword Emperor, had arrived. Sword Emperor? The Emperor God Bai Xing stared at the young man in front of him, full of fear. He was the leader of the real martial arts divine church. He knew how terrifying Sword Emperor was. The Sword Emperor was the recognized leader of the eternal chaotic world. No one could surpass him. But he also knew that Jian Wushuang had slaughtered his way to the top. His fame was built on the blood of others. Notorious. He had not expected the Sword Emperor to arrive personally. Naturally, he was shocked. The only person that did not fear Jian Wushuang was that middle-aged man. You are that Sword Emperor? The middle-aged man looked at Jian Wushuang lazily. I hear you're the strongest cultivator in this era, next to Emperor Bai. But you don't seem like much. He did not take Jian Wushuang to heart at all. That was normal. He was from the ancient era. For experts from that era, the highest experts of the new era were only peak chaotic realm, nothing in comparison to their era. After hearing that, Emperor God Bai Xing calmed down. So what if you're the Sword Emperor? How could you compete against our ancient era lords? Emperor God Bai Xing thought to himself. Jian Wushuang glanced at the middle-aged man. From the ancient era? Jian Wushuang had long ago guessed the latter's identity. In that era, besides Emperor Bai, no one could have doubted him. If the real martial arts divine church provoked lineage of stars because they had the backing of this middle-aged man, then he must have been from the ancient era to give the church such a confidence boost. Emperor God Bai Xing, your backing is only this? Jian Wushuang swept at him. HNGH Sword Emperor, you are scary but only in this era. With Lord Xiaoyu from the ancient era, you can forget about escaping, Emperor God Bai Xing said. Xiaoyu was the middle-aged man's name. Is it? Jian Wushuang's lips pearled. TSK, my second brother had instructed me not to clash with experts from this era. But you came to my doorstep yourself, you can't blame me. Xiaoyu was smiling deviously, now with a red dagger in his hand. The crimson dagger exuded a cold glaze under the sun that made one shiver. It would be interesting if I killed you and made you my blood servant. Xiaoyu smiled and made his move. Show! A red shadow zoom passed in the void. No one could fix their gaze on Xiaoyu. So fast. The cultivators were all astonished. Careful, master. Even He Xiao warned him. He too felt that Xiaoyu was too fast. But Jian Wushuang stood there, not moving a single muscle. Wang! A crimson light tore through the void and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang without a trace. The crimson figure was going straight for Jian Wushuang's throat. Xiaoyu had a devious smile on him. Die, ant! The dagger was getting closer to his throat. The surrounding crowd held their breaths. As the crimson light was about to pierce Jian Wushuang's throat, a large hand grabbed it. Pap! The hand exuded surging divine power and stopped the crimson dagger with his own bare hands. In the void, Jian Wushuang remained standing, Xiaoyu about a meter away from him. His crimson dagger was being held tightly by Jian Wushuang, like a large plier. No matter what Xiaoyu did, the dagger would not move forward. How is that possible? Xiaoyu's eyes glared in astonishment. The dagger was a formidable chaos divine treasure, and he had given everything he had in that blow, but Jian Wushuang had caught it with his bare hands? He was an ancient era expert. Even though he was restricted by the rules of heaven and earth, he had so many secret skills experts of the current era could only dream of. He was confident no cultivator of the current era could be his opponent. His two elder brothers had their reservations towards Emperor Bai, but he had always dismissed those fears. But now, It was beyond what he had expected. How could he actually catch my dagger? How is that possible? Xiaoyu mumbled. As he was in such shock, Jian Wushuang in front of him was staring coldly at him, his gaze full of ridicule and disdain. Expert from the ancient era? I wondered how strong could you be, but in the end, you're nothing more than an ordinary third-stage great emperor. Jian Wushuang chuckled. As Xiaoyu made his move, Jian Wushuang felt it. Nothing more than an ordinary third-stage great emperor. For comparison, his abilities were alike to Demon King Chunyu. That level of power would have posed a threat towards him if they were fighting 20,000 years ago before the war. But Jian Wushuang could not care anymore. He caught Xiaoyu's blow with his divine power alone. If your abilities are only as such, you will not leave this place today. Jian Wushuang's voice was indifferent. He placed his strength into his right fist, returning a terrifying blow as he knocked Xiaoyu's dagger away. That fist encompassed Jian Wushuang's divine power from the ultimate phase of the seventh-step inverse cultivation, the bloodline power from the ancient god clan, and the improved divine power from the immemorial celestial body's second scroll. All of that combined was heading on its way towards Xiaoyu. Hong! That punch split the earth. A large hole that permeated the entire city came out of thin air. That horrifying, earth-shattering blow was heading towards Xiaoyu. The sheer power alone took everyone around aback. Xiaoyu's face darkened and he threw a punch out consciously, trying to resist. But as the fists collided head-on, there was a bang. Then there was the sound of crackling of bones. Xiaoyu's entire arm had been blasted away from the sheer power and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. This level of power, chaotic divine demon, Xiaoyu was terrified. Impossible! Are there no restrictions placed upon this earth? Everyone can only reach chaotic realm powers. Sword Emperor, how can he do that? Impossible! Xiaoyu was being torn apart. He did not know that the restrictions were only placed upon typical cultivators, and did not affect inverse cultivators. When Emperor Bai had given his all during the final fight against the Three Emperors world, along with the secret skills of Star Palace amplifying his powers tenfold, he could have reached chaotic divine demon levels. But Jian Wushuang's fighting power now was stronger than Emperor Bai's. Emperor Bai needed the secret skills of Star Palace to reach chaotic divine demon levels. But for Jian Wushuang, with the ultimate phase of the inverse cultivation's seventh-step mastered, bloodline power, and immemorial celestial body, he could hit chaotic divine demon levels even without secret skills of Star Palace. Jian Wushuang could crush Xiaoyu with pure power alone. That left Xiaoyu no room to even struggle against Jian Wushuang. Run! Xiaoyu finally got his act together, or perhaps Jian Wushuang's power had frightened him. Grabbing his dagger with his bare hands, then releasing chaotic divine demon powers in a single punch? How could he block that when he could only perform pinnacle chaotic realm powers himself? He had to run. Don't think you can escape. Jian Wushuang glanced coldly at Xiaoyu and leapt over casually. The leap seemed casual, but it contained the power of space-time, making him endlessly faster than the speed at which Xiaoyu could escape. Immediately he caught up with Xiaoyu. He has rules of order? Xiaoyu glared. But Jian Wushuang had already pulled out his Blood Mountain sword and directly threw it up in the air, turning it into a large mountain. The bottom of the mountain had streaks of mysterious lines, forming a large black hole in an attempt to suck in Xiaoyu. Suppressing me? Dream on. Xiaoyu was enraged and started to struggle in a frenzy. Struggle? What's the use of that? Jian Wushuang could only sneer. The suppressive abilities of the Blood Mountain sword increased in proportion with Jian Wushuang's own abilities. To activate the suppression, divine power had to be used. With Jian Wushuang's divine power being fully released to chaotic divine demon levels, how could the chaotic realm Xiaoyu possibly have blocked his suppression? No! No! Xiaoyu could only scream as his body approached the black hole. Brothers! Save me! Xiaoyu screamed as he transmitted his call for help to his brothers. After that, he was fully absorbed by the black hole. The large mountain reverted back to the Blood Mountain sword once again and landed in Jian Wushuang's hand. Jian Wushuang remained indifferent as if he had simply suppressed a normal man, instead of an ancient-era expert. His heart did not flutter at all. Indeed, an ancient era that could only demonstrate the third stage great emperor powers no longer excited him anymore. He could suppress or kill them with a flip of his hand. But it looked completely different in front of all the cultivators. This Emperor God Bai Xing of the real martial arts divine church was dumbfounded. His eyes were almost falling out of their sockets. Sir God Mo Chio and the rest were equally shocked. Perhaps the other cultivators could not feel much, for they do not know much about Xiaoyu's background anyway. But Emperor God Bai Xing and the other Sir Gods knew that Xiaoyu was an ancient era expert. An ancient era expert had been so easily suppressed? How could that happen? Emperor God Bai Xing was on the verge of collapse. But he came to his senses before long. Run! Emperor God Bai Xing led the escape. The other Sir Gods from the real martial arts divine church were not slow either, and all started running away. If even Lord Xiaoyu could be so easily suppressed, none of them would stand a chance against Jian Wushuang. Emperor God Bai Xing was only thinking of returning to real martial arts divine church and getting Xiaoyu's brothers to appear. He knew that the brothers were much stronger. Perhaps they stood a chance together against Jian Wushuang. As Emperor God Bai Xing and the rest were escaping, Jian Wushuang was still indifferent, not moving an inch. It was as if he was about to let them go. But not long after, a mysterious attack quietly struck the five of them. A trace of terror flashed across the eyes of the five of them. The next moment, 5 corpses were plunging straight for the ground. Dead. The leader of the real martial arts divine church and his 4 almighties all dead. How are they dead? The Sword Emperor did not move at all. If I'm not wrong, he used a soul attack. The surrounding cultivators were in awe, looking at Jian Wushuang in respect. Jian Wushuang remained indifferent. Soul attack. Indeed, that was what he did. My disciple, go pick up their treasures, Jian Wushuang instructed. Understood. He Xiao immediately took the treasures and the Qian Kuan rings of Emperor God Bai Xing and the others. He Xiao returned to Jian Wushuang. Master, do we still make our way towards the real martial arts divine church? No need for that, Jian Wushuang smiled. Xiaoyu mentioned his 2 brothers just now. Now that I have suppressed him, his brothers will definitely come for him. We just need to wait. Understood. He Xiao nodded. At that moment, within the real martial arts divine church's lair, 2 figures were cultivating in separate rooms within a secluded palace. Suddenly, Xiaoyu's transmission came over. Both of them in the room opened their eyes immediately. Number 5. Xiao. 2 figures immediately appeared within the palace. The soul power of both started to cover the entire real martial arts divine church. Number 5's not here, along with the church leader and his chaotic realm disciples. A black-haired man with a black mark on his forehead said. Immediately they caught a senior from the real martial arts divine church and got hold of the story. Lineage of Star? Number 5's in trouble, let's go. The both of them then made their way to the city that Jian Wushuang was held up in. Within the huge city, countless cultivators gathered and stared in awe and fear towards the figure about the central void. Jian Wushuang had his hands crossed and was stood there casually, but his soul power was already spreading. Jian Wushuang immediately sensed 2 strong auras within his soul power radius. They're here. Jian Wushuang looked towards the void in front of him. The countless cultivators around followed Jian Wushuang's gaze and looked towards the void. At the edge of the void, 2 black dots appeared and were enlarging at an alarming rate. Finally, the 2 figures appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. One was in a black robe, black-haired, with a black mark on his forehead. He stood there, releasing no aura at all. The other man was red-haired, in a red robe, with a fire mark on his forehead, exuding violent and hot aura. Felt like a burning flame. They took a glance at everyone around. Both of them also noticed Jian Wushuang. Number 5. Where is he? The burly man with the flame mark shouted. Number 5. If you were talking about Xiaoyu, he's now suppressed, Jian Wushuang replied. Suppressed? You dare suppress my brother? The burly man was enraged, flames coming out from his eyes. There was no obvious fire, but everyone around could feel the heat and flames on them like they were being cooked alive. Retreat! Let's move further away. The surrounding cultivators had to move to the edge of the city to escape from that fiery aura. So what if I did? Jian Wushuang had no fear. The nerve! The burly man was about to make his move. Brother, no rush. The black-haired young man stopped him. The black-haired man was obviously calmer than the burly man. He exhaled lightly and looked towards Jian Wushuang. You are from the lineage of stars and able to suppress our number 5. I assume you are the great sword emperor of this era. Yes, it is I. Jian Wushuang nodded, acknowledging it. Sword emperor, I'm afraid there has been a misunderstanding. The three of us only wish to cultivate and restore our peak strength. We had no intention of making enemies with the lineage of stars. The black-haired man said. No intention? But you have already done it, Jian Wushuang replied coldly. That is the act of the real martial arts divine church, I assume. We had no intention of offending you or any other expert of this era. We hope you can forgive our brother, and we will be willing to compensate you for the trouble we've caused for your lineage of stars. The black-haired man was sincere. Apologize? Compensate? Haha. If I'm not wrong, those 2 blood slaves are the work of your brother, right? Jian Wushuang pointed towards the 2 blood slaves. The black-haired man's face darkened at the sight of them. Blood slaves were indeed one of Xiaoyu's favorite pastimes. In the ancient era, he loved turning live cultivators into blood slaves. You know, one of the blood slaves belonged to the lineage of stars. Jian Wushuang said coldly. Your brother ruthlessly killed my lineage of stars expert and turned him into a blood slave. Before you arrived, he made his move against me as well. If not for my skills, I'm afraid I would have been turned into a blood slave as well. The black-haired man's face darkened with resentment. He had instructed Xiaoyu many times to not act wantonly. But it seemed that Xiaoyu obviously did not want to listen to him. Your Excellency, regardless of whether he is my brother, this issue will be put to an end if you release my brother. I will promise to never offend the lineage of stars, but if you insist on not releasing my brother. The black-haired man's voice deepened. So what if I'm not willing to release? Will you learn from your brother and turn me to a blood slave as well? Jian Wushuang sniggered. Looks like there is no longer room for negotiation. The black-haired man's eyes turned cold. The burly man beside him sneered. Number 2. Why waste time with words? Just kill him already. The flame and heat immediately encompassed the entire city, burning the void. Many buildings and even the ground below succumbed to the sea of fire. Immediately, the city's buildings were burned to ash. My gosh! Luckily we retreated far away. If not, too terrifying. The huge city disappeared in a blink of an eye. The many cultivators that had retreated to the edges of the city were horrified as they watched the sea of fire sweep over the city. In the middle of that sea of fire, the burly man, now with a flaming axe, was the lord within the sea of fire. To the side, the black-haired man took out a black spear, his entire being looking as though it had morphed into a black hole that devoured everything. The auras of both of them reached their maximum. This aura feels like Pinnacle 3rd stage, stronger than Lord Fan but not Kaiser blood levels. Jian Wushuang's lips were raised. He was referring to Kaiser blood Emperor's consciousness embodiment. The consciousness embodiment Kaiser blood was already at Pinnacle 3rd stage, yet Emperor Bai could easily suppress him. These 2 people were not even at Kaiser blood's level. Sword Emperor, for the last time, will you let go of Xiaoyu? The black-haired man's voice became cold. Nope. Jian Wushuang gently shook his head. You wanna die? The black-haired man's face darkened. Kill him already. The burly man was extremely bloodthirsty, and without hesitation, both experts made their moves. The 2 great ancient era experts had not much intention to clash with experts of the current era. Their intentions were much simpler. They simply wanted to restore their strength peacefully, and once the time was up, head for heaven's horizon. But not wanting to clash with the current era's experts did not mean that they feared them. At least they did not fear Jian Wushuang. From the information they had received, The scariest expert around was Emperor Bai. And Jian Wushuang. Even though he had been critical in the fight between the three emperors world 20,000 years ago, Jian Wushuang had been able to release such power due to his trump card, and it would be hard to use it again. Jian Wushuang's true power seemed to be at pinnacle chaotic realm in their opinion, nothing more than an ordinary third-stage great emperor. But their fighting power were both pinnacle third stage. If they teamed up, they could even fight Emperor Bai. What was a sword emperor going to do to stop them? I gave you a chance. Don't blame us. The black-haired man shouted and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. A terrifying dark aura came bursting out as his black spear pierced forward. Howl! A dragon's cry resonated. A huge dark dragon appeared, circling around that spear. While that eerie spear was sparkling in front of the chest of Jian Wushuang, the horrifying speed and explosive power of that spear seemed menacing. Yet Jian Wushuang had no intention of dodging. The next moment, the black spear went straight through his body, but no flesh or blood could be seen. Jian Wushuang's body gradually turned into nothing. What? The black-haired man's face darkened, immediately locking eyes with Jian Wushuang at the void not far away. That was fast. That kid actually got a bit of space-time rules, and he knows how to use it well. The black-haired man was shocked. What he did not know was that Jian Wushuang had practiced in the tower for 1,000 years. While practicing with the experts, he had mastered both swordsmanship and rules of order. Thousands of years of slaughter had improved his swordsmanship and his rules of order. He had dodged the spear with space-time rules of order. Die! The monstrous voice could be heard everywhere. The burly man with the flaming axe struck down at Jian Wushuang's side. But before the axe could come down, the rising heat could have been felt first. If it had been any ordinary expert or even a great emperor, the heat alone would have stopped breaths and made them lose all ability to resist. But Jian Wushuang was not affected by it all, and threw a punch. Pong! The huge axe and fist crashed head-on. Based on how sharp the axe was, it should have cut off Jian Wushuang's entire hand. But in fact, Jian Wushuang's hand was not affected at all, and the power of his hand even passed on towards the burly man. The burly man could feel a sharp pain in his arm. That power? Shocked, the burly man retreated, and soon the sea of fire started retreating. The man was now covered by the burning flames. Like a flaming giant, he raised his axe again. Flaming axe! Hua! 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 3 axe strikes were made, every move coming with boundless flame. HNGH! Jian Wushuang snorted without fear and threw out 3 punches with his right fist. Pong! 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 3 explosions then followed the retreating body of the burly man. After a while, he composed himself. Damn it, the restrictions on this earth are too strong. I threw 13 axe blows at him, but only the weakest 3 came out. If I could throw my 6th axe out, I would definitely cut the dude in 2. The burly man growled. He was dejected. As an ancient era expert, chaotic realm powers had been nothing to him in the past, but now he could only demonstrate chaotic realm powers himself. It never felt good to be restricted so tightly. Show! The black-haired man appeared beside the burly man. Watch out, Sword Emperor is stronger than we thought. Black-haired man. I know. The burly man nodded, and his face stiffened. Jian Wushuang watched the 2 people regather, and a smile was on his face. Both of you are not bad. Much better than Xiayu, worthy for me to pull out my sword. Under that devious smile, the Blood Mountain sword showed in his hand once again. The sword was out. He was finally getting serious. From his appearance to taking down Xiayu, to the previous attacks, Jian Wushuang had never pulled out his Blood Mountain sword for swordsmanship. At most. He had used the Blood Mountain sword's suppressive abilities to suppress Xiayu. Now, finally, Jian Wushuang was about to perform his sword skills. His abilities were finally being revealed. Brother, I have a bad hunch about this. Be careful. The black-haired man stared at Jian Wushuang and said, The burly man nodded. Jian Wushuang in front of them finally made his move. A casual step, yet it contained endless power of space-time, and he appeared in front of the burly man. Jian Wushuang casually swung his sword, like a child playing with a wooden stick. It was soft, there was no strength to it at all. It looked ordinary to the people watching, and rightfully so. It was indeed a very ordinary, casual sword move. But such a casual sword move can be drastically different in nature when done by Jian Wushuang. Space could not hinder his sword at all. The burly man's face darkened, but he dared not be reckless. He took his fiery axe and swung down, the endless sea of fire charging for the sword. Dang! It was a crisp sound. Jian Wushuang's arm shook slightly, pulling back his blood mountain sword. He twisted his wrist and held his sword horizontally, the body of the sword now forming a whip which was heading towards the burly man. Jian Wushuang had trained in the Sword Doctrine Trial Tower for a millennium. He had achieved a new understanding of sword principle. Now, his usage of swordsmanship was unpreceded. To him now, not only the blade could be used to kill the enemy, the body, the handle, any part of the sword can be used. The Blood Mountain sword left a blood shadow in the void and struck the burly man's axe. An overbearing power was passed over, enough for the burly man to grunt, almost causing him to let go of his axe. After the sword move forced the burly man into a retreat, he could feel several wind-breaking sounds heading for him. It was the black-haired man with his spear. His spear was as fast as a viper coming out of its hole, heading for Jian Wushuang's head. Jian Wushuang smiled. As he raised his Blood Mountain sword, Jian Wushuang turned into a huge beast that could devour everything in its way. The beast was roaring as an overwhelming explosion of swordsmanship burst out. Jian Wushuang held the sword with one hand and pierced it straight forward. Instantly the huge beast pounced and dense, endless sword shadows decimated the black-haired man's spear tactics. The black-haired man's face darkened and started to spin the spear like a fiery wheel. Pap, pap, dang, dang. Continuous clashes were heard. The dense, endless sword shadows were all blocked by the black-haired man's spear. The wild beast slowly disappeared. But after it had disappeared, a figure took its place and appeared less than 10 meters in front of him. Crap! The black-haired man was shocked. A scarlet sword light appeared in front of the youth's chest, tearing through his defensive armor, crushing all his internal organs. Sword Principal Xian Luo, Sanguis Extremis style. The black-haired man's eyes dimmed before he could scream. Second brother. The burly man broke down immediately upon that sight. Ah! The burly man let out a hysterical howl, his expression wild. Faced with such endless rage, the sea of fire he was surrounded in turned crimson red. The fiery mark between his eyebrows let out a dazzling light as well, and immediately mysterious patterns emerged from the mark and surrounded his body. Covered by those mysterious patterns, the burly man looked savage. You will die for what you have done. The burly man looked at Jian Wushuang with murderous intent and strode over. Hong Long Long. An overwhelming aura had locked onto Jian Wushuang. He became stronger? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. I guess he demonstrated some sort of secret skill at a very high cost, his powers bursting out to be almost half-step divine demon levels. Shouldn't be that easy here with the restrictions. Jian Wushuang was right. The burly man had indeed performed a powerful secret skill, but its side effects are astonishing. Most importantly, he could only keep it up for 3 breaths. 3 breaths was the limit. Even with your secret skill, you only reached half-step divine demon. Jian Wushuang smiled. As the burly man charged at him in a frenzy, Jian Wushuang greeted him directly without fear. Flaming axe. Hua, 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 hua. 5 axe shadows, each one cutting down with endless flame. It was the same stunt, but this time he barely managed to perform 5 axe moves. But 5 was his limit. Jian Wushuang held the sword with one hand, and as the axe was coming for him, a sharp light flashed across his eyes. Hoo! A wind strong enough to destroy everything around came. The storm could tear great emperor experts apart. But the storm was the beginning of Jian Wushuang's sword move. Like a storm, it was Sword Principal Xian Luo's most powerful move, Blast Rainstorm. As Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship improved, the power of the Sword Principal Xian Luo started to surface as well. Along with Jian Wushuang's current chaotic divine demon power, Hua, The sword light flashed past mercilessly. The sea of fire was cut into two. As for the 5 axe shadows under the sword light, pong, 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 pong. There were 5 impacts and the burly man's battle axe was thrown away. How is this possible? The burly man's eyes were wide open in astonishment. But the sword light was already in front of him, the endless storms flooding around him. The endless storm soon came to a rest. The fire that swallowed the entire city has gradually dissipated as well. The peace of the earth was restored. At the center of the earth, Jian Wushuang put his blood mountain sword in his Qian Kuan ring, gazing at the 2 corpses below him. 2 ancient era experts. Indeed, your powers were way stronger than they were in the ancient era. I can take you all down because you were not able to perform pinnacle powers. But because of this, it shows that you no longer dominate this era, Jian Wushuang murmured. He had no pity for the 2 corpses. Perhaps the 2 ancient era experts truly had no intention of provoking the top powerhouses of the era. They indeed had no intention to provoke Jian Wushuang either. But what they did could not be tolerated by Jian Wushuang. They had turned a pinnacle Sir God, and even an Emperor God, into a blood slave. Those were not the actions of a decent man. If he had allowed the 3 ancient era experts to remain, they would eventually pose a threat to the eternal chaotic world. Master! Xianxia reappeared in front of Jian Wushuang, his eyes full of fanaticism. He was a Sir God expert too. He could feel how powerful the 2 people Jian Wushuang had slain were. Unexpectedly, the 2 were much stronger than all those great emperors from the eternal chaotic world. But even when they teamed up, they were easily cut down by his master. The strength of his master, the backing of the real martial arts divine church has now been removed. What happens next shall be left to Hall Master Wushuang. Let's go, Jian Wushuang said directly. Yes, Xianxia nodded. Immediately, Xianxia and Jian Wushuang left. When they left, the countless cultivators that had witnessed that battle were completely blasted away. Many cultivators had enjoyed watching that battle. The battle to them was perhaps the scariest battle they had seen in their lives. Too strong, they were too strong. Compared to them, let alone almighties, even an ordinary great emperor could not do anything. They also knew after that battle the real martial arts divine church was truly over. Even though Jian Wushuang had removed those almighties and 3 ancient era experts, the real martial arts divine church was still around. But without the almighties and backings, the church would collapse in a matter of time. The lineage of stars would never forgive the church, and other forces would soon eat up their territory anyway. The real martial arts divine church had nothing to counter them with. Jian Wushuang was only in charge of wiping out the backings. He could not be bothered to handle the rest. Above the vast void, an ancient spaceship hurried away. In the ship, Jian Wushuang stood alone in a secret room, with the Blood Mountain sword floating in front of him. Xianxia, how does it feel? Not bad, right, being suppressed? Jian Wushuang smiled as his voice was transmitted into the Blood Mountain sword. Xianxia was full of despair within the Blood Mountain sword. He was already suppressed by Jian Wushuang with a serious injury, with no time to recover. Being suppressed also meant that a large number of torture techniques were being used on him, courtesy of the Blood Mountain sword. There were many kinds of torture. Torture of the body, the mind, the soul. After Xianxia had been suppressed, he had been suffering from soul torture. So painful, even an ancient expert could not handle it. In the beginning, he had been cursing and shouting, with no intention of bowing to Jian Wushuang. On the contrary, he had kept threatening Jian Wushuang to let him out. Otherwise his brothers would definitely not let it pass. Even though Jian Wushuang had ignored him, Xianxia had still been confident. He believed his brothers would save him and crush this Jian Wushuang ant for him. Sure enough, they had come and fought against Jian Wushuang. Xianxia had witnessed the fight clearly through the Blood Mountain sword. But he had not expected things to end up this way. Dead. His brothers had been killed by Jian Wushuang? No. Impossible. Xianxia was in disbelief, but eventually he had to accept the fact. It sent him into despair. If even his brothers could be slaughtered by Jian Wushuang, who would save him? Or who could? Now, Jian Wushuang's consciousness had finally arrived. You're the devil. Xiaoyu had completely lost it. The devil? Haha. You should have lived much longer than anyone here, but your mentality has been the same. Jian Wushuang felt disdain. The longer one lived, the stronger their mentality should be. But Xiaoyu, an ancient-era expert, could not even fight against some Sir gods in terms of mentality. Xiaoyu, I have some questions to ask you, Jian Wushuang asked. HNH, you think I'll answer? Xiaoyu replied coldly. You will. Jian Wushuang smiled deviously. Xiaoyu, you know why I kept you but killed your two brothers? Because you're much easier to control. Jian Wushuang smiled. Control. Xiaoyu froze, but his face darkened greatly in the next moment. At the same time, Xiaoyu could feel a boundless soul power coming for him. Soul power? You want to use soul control on me? Wish on. Xiaoyu was enraged. Soul control was worse than death, no better than blood slaves. Regardless of if it was during the ancient era or the current era, cultivators would rather die than allow themselves to be soul-controlled. Thus, Xiaoyu's soul power in his consciousness C surged immediately, obviously wanting to resist. But soon he realized Jian Wushuang's soul power was so much stronger, and he simply could not resist. I'm an ancient-era expert, after all. I was a chaotic divine demon. Even though the restrictions on this earth greatly weakened my soul power, but not to the extent that a chaotic realm could control me. Xiaoyu could not believe what was happening. He did not know that 20,000 years ago, Jian Wushuang had used the soul-swallowing pearl to perform the 3 divine lights, a soul attack skill against Demon King Chanyu. In the 20,000 years of his sleep, his soul power had greatly improved. His soul attack was naturally stronger than the rest's. Jian Wushuang now, with his soul-swallowing pearl and nether light scripture from the 3 divine lights to help him with soul control, who could stop him? In addition, it had already been some time since Jian Wushuang had left the real martial arts divine church area. Why did he look for Xiaoyu now? Because Jian Wushuang wanted Xiaoyu to suffer just a bit more in the Blood Mountain sword, rendering him weak and defenseless. No! No! I will not let you control me even if it means death. Xiaoyu screamed, even about to ignite his soul. But soon he realized the soul power that had infiltrated his consciousness C had already corroded his soul power, controlling his consciousness. It would be wishful thinking to attempt to ignite his soul. Crap! Xiaoyu's face was dark as ash, but soon he started to calm down. Xiaoyu's 2 brothers were too strong for me to control, so I had to kill them. Xiaoyu's different? Jian Wushuang smiled. His soul power was already dominating Xiaoyu's consciousness C, wiping away his consciousness. Within moments, the soul control was complete. As Jian Wushuang waved his hands, Xiaoyu appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Xiaoyu at that moment was very calm. Master. Xiaoyu respectfully stood beside Jian Wushuang, his gaze full of fanaticism. This sort of fanaticism was only found when one was completely under another's soul control. From today, your name shall be Jian Air, Jian Wushuang said. Yes. Xiaoyu, now Jian Air, nodded respectfully. Sit down. There are some things I would like to ask you, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Air immediately sat down in front of him. Talk to me about you and your brothers in the ancient era, Jian Wushuang said. Jian Air, being completely controlled by Jian Wushuang, showed no defiance and began talking about it. Master, my 2 brothers and I were from the ancient era's Divine Dream Heaven sect, one of 8 big holy sects. Although we were nothing against the 3 big holy land and for big holy tribes, we were good. Divine Dream Heaven sect? Jian Wushuang nodded quietly. He knew about ancient era factions. The 3 big holy lands, for big holy tribes, and 8 big holy sects were all elite factions and the 7-star black sect. There were many experts within the Divine Dream Heaven sect. Us 5 brothers were all chaotic divine demon, but we were still nothing within the sect. Luckily, my eldest brother was the highest amongst chaotic divine demons, so we were able to obtain some resources. After the war broke out, the 5 brothers went into battle against the 7-star black sect, but during then number 3 and 4 fell, leaving the 3 of us, but in a stasis. The slumber lasted a very long time. We woke up once but, realizing the restrictions on this earth, went back to sleep. The three of you woke up once? Jian Wushuang frowned. Indeed, but we soon realized the era was completely different to the one we had lived in. The spiritual influence of heaven and earth was weak, and there are all sorts of restrictions. Under those circumstances, we won't be able to restore our powers. In fact, we would have lost our powers. Take me, for example. I was at chaotic divine demon in the ancient era, but when I woke up and stayed around, my maximum potential fell. Even if I reached pinnacle fighting power, it would be pinnacle chaotic realm, Jian said. What? Jian Wushuang flinched. It was better to not wake up? Waking up would gradually shred them of their powers? The land that they were in had that kind of power as well? Because of that, we had to continue to sleep to ensure our maximum potential would not drop, in hopes of eventually restoring pinnacle fighting power, Jian said. If that's the case, why have you all woken up once again? Why within the eternal chaotic world? Jian Wushuang asked. Because the chance we had been waiting for is finally here, Jian said. What chance? Jian Wushuang asked. 3,900 years later. Heaven's horizon. Jian replied. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. We received news. 3,900 years later. Someone at the heavens horizon will establish a link between this land and our homeland, back to the divine dream heaven sect, Jian said solemnly. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was full of questions. Back to your homeland? Back to the divine dream heaven sect? Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. There are other lands beside this? No, not another land. This is the same land as my homeland. But someone locked it and isolated it completely, Jian said. Though Jian Wushuang was overwhelmed by this new information, he did not display his surprise. Actually, he had guessed it some time ago. The land was not the endpoint. The ancient era was not as simple as he had thought. He had confirmed that after the final battle between the three emperors' world, the Blood Emperor of the Three Emperors' world at that time had no intention of dominating or ruling the land. He had intended to destroy the entire eternal chaotic world. The Blood Emperor wanted to destroy all life within the eternal chaotic world to start his cruel formation. But what was his purpose? If the eternal chaotic world was really the endpoint, then what was the point of killing all life to reach a higher level? He would be alone then. If the Blood Emperor's motive was limited to the land, he would not have done that. The only explanation would be that there existed another wider land beyond the current one. Jian words confirmed it. Jian, you mean the land I am on now is one with your homeland? What does that mean? Jian Wushuang inquired. Master, the land you are on, now the eternal chaotic world, was a part of my homeland absolute beginning divine world, under the 7-star divine realm ruled by the 7-star black sect, the powerhouse of the ancient era. Jian. Powerhouse. Stronger than divine dream heaven sect, I assume, Jian Wushuang said. Of course, divine dream heaven sect was strong, but nothing compared to the 7-star black sect. Even the 8 big holy sects, for big holy tribes, could not compare. The 7-star black sect was the best in the ancient era. No one could say no. All the other factions had to step to one side, Jian said. Jian Wushuang could not help but shudder. He knew the 7-star black sect was strong, but not that strong. Absolute beginning divine world should be the beginning of everything, and the end. But 7-star black sect was the top force within the absolute beginning divine world. How strong were they? But even they were exterminated. Jian Wushuang could not help but sigh. Yes, they were strong. No one could take them on individually. But then all the sects, 3 big holy lands, for big holy tribes, 8 big holy sects, and countless divine demons fought their way into the 7-star divine realm. About half of absolute beginning divine world's experts. Jian said, still in awe of what had happened. He had fought in that battle. He knew how terrifying that battle had been. But only with such a terrifying power could they enter the 7-star divine realm. Jian, do you know why they attacked the 7-star divine realm? Was it because they were too strong, pressuring the rest? Jian Wushuang said. I do not know. Jian shook his head. Master, there were too many experts then. countless divine demons and many even higher than that. My 4 brothers and I were inconsequential in that battle. Like dust. Like dust. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Chaotic divine demons in the ancient era were nothing more than dust? It was too scary. We simply followed our sect's orders to kill all 7-star Black Sect experts. As for why the battle started, only my clan leader and top elder knew. The other elders were not even qualified to know, much less us. But it should not be because the 7-star Black Sect was too strong. They were strong, but they did not have many enemies. Without any specific reason, the other forces would never have agreed to work together, Jian said. Jian Wushuang nodded. The 7-star Black Sect must have known how to handle relations to become the absolute beginning divine world's powerhouse. There had to be another reason for them to force the other sects to exterminate the 7-star Black Sect. Jian Wushuang could not guess the reason for it either. Jian continue. What happened after? Jian Wushuang asked. After that, with the 3 big Holy Land leaders leading the charge, they broke into the 7-star divine realm. The 7-star Black Sect resisted and fought back. The entire 7-star divine realm collapsed, turning into battlefield after battlefield. Countless experts died, fallen, missing. Even experts beyond chaotic divine demon levels fell. But ultimately, the 7-star Black Sect was defeated. They lost badly. All 7-star Black Sect disciples were killed. Only a few higher-ups were left struggling. But as the other experts were about to wipe out every 7-star Black Sect experts, one elite expert managed to activate a formation that opened the heavens. With that formation activated, 7-star divine realms, countless divine demons and experts' divine power and blood essence were sucked away in a moment. Many experts felt it and managed to escape in time, but some did not. That formation became a huge blockade between the 7-star divine realm and absolute beginning divine world. As for the rest, I guess you already know, Master. Jian Wushuang fell silent. He knew what happened after that. After the land was blocked by the formation, cut away from the absolute beginning divine world, many experts, including the 7-star Black Sect that remained, were all damaged by it. The restriction had forced them to a deep slumber as well, leading to the end of the ancient era. Everything after that was publicly known. As the restriction grew larger, the spiritual influence of heaven and earth grew thinner and with fewer experts. Then the first era, then the current second era. Do you know who placed the formation? Jian Wushuang asked. The expert was strong, even as good as the master of the Holy Land. I do not know of his past, but I heard the Divine Dream Heaven sect leader mention a name. Xianxia, Jian said. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank sharply. Xianxia. His master, Xianxia. When he had asked Jianxia, he too had said that the formation that had led to experts into deep slumber was a man named Xianxia. The formation was really placed by Master? Jian Wushuang was taken aback. He knew how scary the formation was. The formation forcibly split the land from the rest of the absolute beginning divine world. The absolute beginning divine world had countless experts, but could never come over. The restrictions were all caused by the formation. No wonder back at the Blood Emperor Sanctuary grounds, Master had been about to control and add the restrictions to Blood Emperor. Jian Wushuang murmured. The restrictions had been created by Xianxia. The restrictions were from that formation. Xianxia, being the creator of the formation, could naturally control it. Jian Wushuang thought to himself, and a painting floated in his mind. The painting was the same ancient image he had seen in the Chilly Wind Valley. The painting depicted a burly man with a big forehead, surrounded by countless experts. But even then, the man would not give up and crumbled heaven and earth. That image gave Jian Wushuang a feeling that it was the one Jian had just mentioned. The moves that the man made were probably to activate the formation. If that was the case, then the man's identity. Jian Wushuang shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Jian, since you received news about Heaven's Horizon opening a path 3,900 years later to absolute beginning divine world, that means it was not just the 3 of you that woke up, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Definitely, Jian nodded. But I do not know how many woke up. Jian Wushuang nodded. but that slightly stressed him. He was currently undefeatable in his era. But he was nothing compared to those ancient experts. If not for the restrictions, Jian Wushuang would be nothing but a tiny ant in their eyes. But, even with the restrictions, those ancient era experts were not to be messed with. He took a deep breath and pulled out a token. Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang was transmitting to him. Jian Wushuang, what is it? Emperor Bai replied. I just came back from the real martial arts divine church and met with some ancient era experts, Jian Wushuang said. Ancient era experts? You too. Emperor Bai's voice deepened. Too. Jian Wushuang's eyes squinted. Guess you know too. Transmission's not convenient. Come over to Thunderbolt Island. We can talk about this face to face. Emperor Bai said. Understood. Jian Wushuang nodded. Soon, he turned his ship to head towards Thunderbolt Island. Along the way, he continued to ask Jian Er some questions about the absolute beginning divine world and took time to investigate Jian Er and his brother's Chen Kuan ring. They were ancient era experts after all, their treasures were nothing ordinary. Jian Wushuang found many valuable items. 10-odd divine weapons when combining all 3 Chen Kuan rings. Each had a genuine chaos divine weapon, with several defensive armors. There were 8 secret skills as well, all formidable, but it was a pity that Jian Wushuang had no use for it. There were fewer treasures, especially natural treasures and elixirs. Ancient era experts needed large amounts of natural treasures and elixirs to maintain their powers. It was no wonder that they had all been used up. That was why the 3 brothers had remained within the real martial arts divine church. They had needed them to gather resources. The rewards were plentiful. Though Jian Wushuang had no use for them, he could pass them down to Greenfire World and Lineage of Stars, especially the 8 secret skills. One of the secret skills of body refinery could not be compared to Jian Wushuang's immemorial celestial body, but was much better than Eternal Chaotic World's own protective secret skills. He passed it to Xianxia immediately. After a simple check, Xianxia found a use for it. After that, both of them went their separate ways. Xianxia returned to the Lineage of Stars, whereas Jian Wushuang made his way to Thunderbolt Island. Thunderbolt Island, within the Presbytery Pavilion. The Presbytery Pavilion was where the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance gathered. But only Emperor Bai was around. Emperor Bai could tell the moment Jian Wushuang stepped into the Presbytery Pavilion. A breakthrough. Emperor Bai looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. He could sense a great change in Jian Wushuang's aura. That can only happen when one advanced from the 2nd stage of the 7th step to the final stage. Without a doubt, Jian Wushuang had surpassed himself. How could you do it so quickly? Emperor Bai was shocked. He practiced inverse cultivation as well. He knew how hard it was. It needed a large amount of divine power. Emperor Bai had reached the 2nd stage of the 7th step back during the 1st era. Even when the 1st era collapsed, he had not been able to reach the ultimate stage of the 7th step and spent quite some time in the 2nd era before he broke through. He had spent an entire era, countless treasures, to finally reach the base requirements for his breakthrough. But Jian Wushuang? It was not long since he reached the 2nd stage of his inverse cultivation's 7th step. But now he had reached the ultimate stage. Jian Wushuang, your speed of progress is really enviable, Emperor Bai exclaimed. Haha, I was just lucky. Jian Wushuang casually laughed it off. Emperor Bai frowned. You must have received some sort of amazing opportunity. To him, without such an opportunity, it was impossible for Jian Wushuang to reach such a breakthrough. And that was indeed the case. Emperor Bai knew it, but he did not intend to probe more. Previously you said you encountered an ancient era expert. Tell me what happened? Emperor Bai asked. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and described his experience in the real martial arts divine church. Three ancient era experts? Emperor Bai's eyes narrowed. What happened to the 3 of them? I killed 2 of them. The other one now my sword servant via soul control. Jian Wushuang did not conceal anything. Emperor Bai was shocked, but soon he was relieved. Before reaching the ultimate stage, Jian Wushuang's fighting power was already very aggressive. Emperor Bai knew how much one's fighting power would increase by the moment he stepped into the ultimate stage. Jian Wushuang now definitely possessed ancient-era expert-slaying abilities. Emperor Bai, you mentioned two previously? What's happening? There are others that encountered ancient-era experts. Jian Wushuang asked. Yep. Emperor Bai nodded. 300 years ago, at the Colored Glaze Sanctuary, Colored Glaze herself seemed to have encountered an ancient-era expert. Seemed. Jian Wushuang frowned. I say seemed, because we are not sure. Colored Glaze wanted to engage him, but the opponent simply glanced at her, and she lost the courage to make her move. According to her, the opponent's aura was extremely terrifying, and she would have died without a struggle if she had engaged him. Emperor Bai said. Oh! Jian Wushuang frowned. He knew about Great Emperor Colored Glaze. She was an elite first-stage Great Emperor. If she had encountered a second-stage Great Emperor, she would have been so scared as to lose courage. If the opponent could make her feel that way, it meant that the opponent was definitely a decent third-stage Great Emperor, possibly Pinnacle, and definitely not weaker than Jian Er's two elder brothers. I asked Colored Glaze personally. She said the opponent's aura felt very similar to mine. Emperor Bai said. Then it has to be an ancient-era expert, Jian Wushuang said. The top two experts of the eternal chaotic world were Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai. There was no other third-stage Great Emperor besides the two of them. The restrictions on the Second Era were too powerful, making it hard to produce third-stage Great Emperors. Under those circumstances, there was only one logical explanation for an expert's fighting powers to be similar to Emperor Bai's. The opponent was from the Ancient Era. He should be an Ancient Era expert, but we cannot be sure. Luckily, the opponent did not engage or stir up any mess within the Colored Glaze Sanctuary. Emperor Bai said. Jian Wushuang nodded. As long as terrifying Ancient-Era experts did not stir up any trouble within the eternal chaotic world, the Sanctuary Alliance would not provoke them. Like Emperor 13, in the beginning, no one had known what he wanted to do nor how powerful he was. As long as he did not provoke the Sanctuary Alliance, they did not care. Even if Emperor 13 were to start a slaughter within the eternal chaotic world, as long as it was not out of hand, the Sanctuary Alliance would not care. Besides the suspected Ancient-Era expert Colored Glaze saw, there was another incident 30 years ago at the Red Dragon Sanctuary. Emperor Bai said. What was it? Jian Wushuang asked. It was a city. A lot of cultivators disappeared within the city in a short period of time, leaving an aura of coldness that covered the city in a layer of ice. Emperor Bai said. This stirred some waves in the Red Dragon Sanctuary then, but Red Dragon himself was not particularly bothered by it. But afterwards, two other cities and a sect suffered the same treatment. Red Dragon started treating it seriously, and after some research, they realized it was the work of a black water dragon. Black water dragon? Jian Wushuang's gaze moved, but something about it felt familiar. Afterwards, 5 years ago, when the black water dragon made its move on another city again, Red Dragon was able to reach there in time, but in the end, Red Dragon almost got himself killed by the black water dragon. Emperor Bai said. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. Red Dragon King had been ranked second in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list in the past. Though the list needed some refreshing, he still possessed second-stage Great Emperor powers. But Red Dragon King was almost killed? How powerful was that black water dragon? Emperor Bai, did Red Dragon King have any projected image of the black water dragon? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Red Dragon recorded it himself, Emperor Bai said, and took out a token. With a wave, a large projected image appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed as he watched the projected image. It's it. Jian Wushuang could not help but clench his fists as a fit of rising anger surrounded him. Jian Wushuang, have you come across this black water dragon? Emperor Bai asked. Of course I've seen it. Jian Wushuang watched Red Dragon King via a projected image as he fought the black water dragon furiously. The black water dragon was massive, constantly spitting out cold air, easily freezing almighties upon contact. Jian Wushuang could not help but recall the years when he had been in the deepest parts of the Buddhist Demon Sea. There, he had seen the exact same black dragon. Since the black water dragon appeared, The ancient era expert behind it has probably awakened as well, and lurking around the Red Dragon Sanctuary, Jian Wushuang murmured. Jian Wushuang? You mean there is an ancient era expert behind the dragon? Emperor Bai frowned. The black water dragon in the projected image was terrifying. No one other than strong third-stage great emperors could have engaged it. Now, there was an ancient era expert behind the dragon? Emperor Bai, I've seen it. I know where it comes from. Jian Wushuang started describing his experience. Buddhist demon sea? The dragon. Emperor Bai was shocked. As far as I know, there are at least 2 ancient era experts in slumber within the Buddhist demon sea. One of them is One-Star Man, likely from the 7-star Black Sect. He's indebted to me. He would not hurt the eternal chaotic world even if he did awaken. But another person, the owner of the Black Water Dragon, from the 7-star Black Sect's opposing camp is there too. From how the dragon behaves, I don't think the person's friendly, Jian Wushuang said. Emperor Bai nodded subtly. Colored Glaze encountered a suspected ancient era expert previously, then one at Red Dragon Sanctuary, then 3 more you encountered yourself. Looks like a lot of ancient era experts are awakening, Emperor Bai said. Indeed, because they all received a transmission. 3,900 years later, someone will open a link passage at the heavens horizon for them to return to absolute beginning divine world. Jian Wushuang said. Absolute beginning divine world? Looks like you know everything. Emperor Bai looked at Jian Wushuang and could tell he had been aware of it for quite some time already. Jian Wushuang nodded. Absolute beginning divine world. The beginning of everything. Emperor Bai sighed. The link to the absolute beginning divine world will finally be reopened again? Jian Wushuang's gaze moved. Emperor Bai, you mean the link had been opened once before? Emperor Bai fell quiet for a moment and nodded. Indeed, a long time ago during the First Era. It happened at Heaven's Horizon as well. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. Jian Wushuang, as you know, I was from the First Era, but did you know how the First Era collapsed? Emperor Bai asked. Jian Wushuang shook his head consciously. He knew why the ancient era had collapsed from Jian Air. It was due to absolute beginning divine world's various sects attacking 7-star divine realm, leading to the collapse of that. But Jian Wushuang never knew why the First Era had collapsed. Does it have to do with the link passage at the heavens horizon? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, that link passage, Emperor Bai said. In the First Era, after the link passage opened at the heavens horizon, there were no ancient era experts that woke up. But on the other end of the passage, from the absolute beginning divine world, a large group of experts came barging in. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. You mean there were experts from the absolute beginning divine world in the First Era? Yes. Emperor Bai paused and said, the link passage closed the moment they arrived, and they started slaughtering the First Era. Slaughter? Jian Wushuang's face darkened. Jian Wushuang, you should know why the ancient era collapsed, and how this land came to be. The land we are on now was originally part of the 7-star divine realm. Although the 7-star divine realm has collapsed, it is undeniable that this land came from the 7-star divine realm, and we are cultivators born from the 7-star divine realm. When the experts from the absolute beginning divine world attacked the 7-star divine realm, they wanted all 7-star divine realm cultivators dead. Why would the experts from the First Era let us off the hook? They wanted to wipe every one of us from the First Era out, then link up with the other experts at the absolute beginning divine world to destroy the formation. They would wake all the ancient era experts up and kill them all, wiping out the 7-star Black Sect completely. Jian Wushuang's gaze turned cold. Wiping away all traces of the 7-star Black Sect and the 7-star divine realm. Jian Wushuang was amazed by the ruthlessness of those experts. The First Era was much more powerful than the Second Era, and experts then could naturally sense the enemy's purpose, so the war began. Emperor Bai continued. Experts that came from the absolute beginning divine world were minimally chaotic divine demons. Luckily, the restrictions on this earth were placed upon them as well, and only then were the cultivators of the First Era able to put up a fight. That battle took 5 days and 5 nights. Jian Wushuang, you would not be able to imagine how terrifying that fight was. Way worse than the one we had with 3 Emperors World. Especially at the end, cultivators ignited their souls or self-imploded, regardless of cost, all to defeat the enemy, and that led to decimation on both sides. Perish together? Jian Wushuang was amazed. Indeed, both sides perished. Countless First-Era cultivators and many great emperors died on the same battlefield, leading to the collapse of the First Era. But only 3 experts that came from the absolute beginning divine world survived. Emperor Bai said. 3. Were they? Jian Wushuang suddenly glared. You guessed it. It's Blood Emperor, Lord Fan, and Demon King Chen Yu. Emperor Bai said. It really is. Jian Wushuang was astonished. He had always thought Blood Emperor, Lord Fan, and Demon King Chen Yu were ancient era experts that had woken up slightly earlier than others. Unexpectedly, those 3 people had not slept since the ancient era. Perhaps they had fought in the ancient era, then escaped and come back once again during the First Era. They survived since the First Era but did not stop. Rather, they continued to expand their sphere of influence for the upcoming battles. Therefore, the beginning of the 3 Emperors World, Holocaust Sect, and the Acheron Palace. They only managed to maintain their abilities with large amounts of resources and treasures. Emperor Bai said. Jian Wushuang finally understood, but his face turned sour. The last time the link passage at Heaven's Horizon opened, experts from the absolute beginning divine world came down. Will the same thing happen this time? That is what I worry about, Emperor Bai replied. There were many experts in the First Era to go against the absolute beginning divine world experts, but they had no choice but to perish with them. The Second Era does not nearly have so many experts, along with the injuries we inflicted during the battle against the 3 Emperors World. If the absolute beginning divine world experts were to come down, we wouldn't stand a chance. Jian Wushuang's face was extremely sour. He knew how big the ability gap was compared to the First Era. Emperor Bai and he may have been strong, but if a large number of third-stage great emperors were to gang up on them, there was not much they could do. Do not rush this first, we still have 3,900 years. Furthermore, we cannot be sure if any experts will come down or not, Jian Wushuang said, and took out a transmission token. Emperor 13 was the strongest during the ancient era. He should know more about the formation placed on this land. I'll go ask him. Emperor 13. Jian Wushuang immediately called him. What is it? Emperor 13 quickly replied, his voice cold as usual. It's like this. Jian Wushuang talked about the link passage opening 3,900 years later, and many ancient era experts awakening. He also talked about the eternal chaotic world's current predicament. Link passage. Emperor 13 thought for a moment, and replied, Don't worry about that. The formation is not as simple as it looks. If those old bastards managed to open a space tunnel back then and send their experts over, then the formation's restrictions would have been much stronger now. Even if all of them at the absolute beginning divine world were to join forces, they would still need some good treasures to open a link passage, and it'll only last for a moment. There is no way they could open it, Emperor 13 said with unprecedented confidence. Jian Wushuang heaved a sigh of relief. Emperor 13 was a supreme expert back at the absolute beginning divine world and knows the most about the formation. If he dares say that, I'm sure no one from the absolute beginning divine world will come down once the link passage opens 3,900 years later, Jian Wushuang said. That's great. Emperor Bai was delighted. As long as they don't come down, we only need to deal with ancient era experts that recently woke up. A lot of them will be busy maintaining their powers as well. There won't be many attacking us, which should make our job much easier. Right? Jian Wushuang nodded. Without any experts coming down from the absolute beginning divine world, they only needed to deal with the ancient era experts. It may have been hard for the eternal chaotic world as of then, but not impossible. After all, Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai were invincible in the world, unless another supreme expert like Emperor 13 appeared. But supreme experts like Emperor 13 should have been able to escape during the ancient era battle then. Based on Jian Wushuang's calculations, only experts of Blood Emperor's level remained. Without the opposing blood formation, Blood Emperor's fighting power was only at half-step divine demon levels. Easy enough for Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai to deal with. Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai were still discussing it. But at that moment, Emperor Bai's gaze moved. What is it? Jian Wushuang immediately looked over. It's Red Dragon, he just transmitted a message to me. He says the Black Water Dragon has appeared again. Many cultivators in another city have disappeared. I've instructed Abysmal Saint Master and Underworld God to help him, but the three of them together may not be enough against the Black Water Dragon and the Ancient Era expert behind it, Emperor Bai said. True, for us to kill it or the Ancient Era expert behind it, both of us must go down personally, Jian Wushuang said. If that's the case, let's go now, Emperor Bai said. Right? Jian Wushuang nodded. Soon, Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai made their way to the Red Dragon Sanctuary. Red Dragon Sanctuary at a northern city. That city was not spectacular amongst the Red Dragon Sanctuary's many cities, but it had countless cultivators nevertheless. But now, the city fell silent. It was a dead city now. Within the city walls, the tall and mighty buildings remained standing, but they were swept with a coldness, frosting them all with a layer of ice. It was as if the entire city had frozen up. At the top void above the city, three figures stood in a line. They were Red Dragon King, Abysmal Saint Master, and Underworld God. They rushed over as soon as they heard the news, but obviously they were too late. The city had already frozen up by the time they had arrived. Everyone has vanished, just like before. That dragon again. Red Dragon King clenched his fist, and his face turned green with anger. We came here as fast as we could, but still we were too late. Abysmal Saint Master frowned. Abysmal Saint Master and Underworld God had received instructions from Emperor Bai to help Red Dragon King. The dragon is not to be messed with. I've transmitted to Emperor Bai he should be on his way. Let's wait here in the meantime, Red Dragon King said. They waited above the city. Not long later, two figures were leaping over from a distance. The trio went up to greet them. Lord Emperor Bai, Sword Emperor. The trio bowed and looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. They had only expected Emperor Bai to come, but Jian Wushuang had followed as well. Red Dragon, how was it? Emperor Bai asked. We were too late. The Black Water Dragon had left long ago. All the cultivators in the city have disappeared. Must have all been eaten up by the dragon, Red Dragon King said. Eaten up? Emperor Bai and Jian Wushuang were taken aback. They knew that the cultivators from the previous few cities, and from that sect, were all eaten up by the Black Water Dragon. Human cultivators were food to the Black Water Dragon. As of now, 5 cities and 1 sect worth of cultivators have been eaten up by the Black Water Dragon. If this persists, the Red Dragon Sanctuary will come to an end, Red Dragon King said. He was right. Only 30 years had passed since the appearance of the Black Water Dragon, but 5 cities and 1 sect had already been attacked. And even though the Red Dragon Sanctuary was extremely large with over 1,000 cities, if the Black Water Dragon kept eating up its cultivators, what would happen to the Red Dragon Sanctuary eventually? The Black Water Dragon has quite a history. Should be from the Ancient Era with an Ancient Era expert behind it, Emperor Bai said. Ancient Era expert? The trio's faces darkened. They had assumed they were only going against the dragon. They did not expect an Ancient Era expert to be behind it. How the Black Water Dragon acts hurts the Sanctuary Alliance. Therefore, it cannot be allowed to stay. Jian Wushuang and I are here to take care of the dragon, and if we can, to take care of the Ancient Era expert behind it as well, Emperor Bai said coldly. Red Dragon King was elated. Even with his abilities combined with Abysmal Saint Master and Underworld God, they could not do much to the dragon, much less the Ancient Era expert. But if Emperor Bai and Jian Wushuang were to be in the picture, the whole game could change. With Emperor Bai and Sword Emperor's abilities combined, taking care of the Black Water Dragon and its Ancient Era expert behind it should be easy. The problem is we don't even know where they went, Red Dragon King said. I rush over every time I catch news regarding a Black Water Dragon attack. But before I can arrive, the dragon will have left a long time ago. I was lucky 5 years ago, being in a city near the one the dragon was attacking, but I was not enough to take it down. Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai looked at each other. Indeed, they do not know where the Black Water Dragon nor its ancient era expert were, and looking for them within the enormous Red Dragon Sanctuary would be like picking a needle from the haystack. The only thing they could do was to wait for the Black Water Dragon to make its next move and hope to get there on time. How about we get a few great emperors from the Sanctuary Alliance and spread them around, but keep them in contact with us. Regardless of which city or sect the dragon tries to attack, the nearby great emperor could at least try to buy us some time for us to go over. Abysmal Saint Master said. Not possible. Jian Wushuang shook his head. The Black Water Dragon is powerful. Even the Red Dragon was nearly killed by it. If an ordinary first stage were to engage it, he'd definitely die. Emperor Bai and Red Dragon King nodded in agreement. If the Black Water Dragon could almost kill a second stage Great Emperor like Red Dragon King, getting a first stage Great Emperor to engage it would be sending him to his death. How about this? We won't use the Sanctuary Alliance's experts. Just a few of us will do the job. We'll split into 3 teams at most, Jian Wushuang said. Emperor Bai and I will be our own teams individually. From how the Black Water Dragon fought Red Dragon King in the projected image, the dragon is at 3rd stage Great Emperor levels. It may be strong, but it may not be pinnacle 3rd stage. Emperor Bai and I can handle him by ourselves. For the last team, Red Dragon King, Abysmal Underworld God, along with my 2 sword servants. 5 people should be enough to fight the dragon face-on. 2 sword servants? Abysmal looked towards Jian Wushuang in surprise. Sword Emperor? I thought you only had Jian Yi? When did you find another one? Haha, a new one, and he's pretty strong. Jian Wushuang said as he released Jian Air from his Blood Mountain sword. As Jian Air appeared, a strong aura exuded from him. This is 3rd stage Great Emperor. Abysmal Saint Master, Red Dragon King, and Underworld God were shocked by the aura exuded by Jian Air. A 3rd stage Great Emperor. Before him there had only been 2 of such great emperors, Emperor Bai and Jian Wushuang. But now, Jian Wushuang's new sword servant was a 3rd stage Great Emperor? His name is Jian Air. Fought me before I soul controlled him. He's injured because of me, so his fighting powers are only at 70%. Still at the 3rd stage. With Jian Yi and the 3 of you, it's more than enough to handle the Black Water Dragon. But be wary of the ancient era expert behind it, Jian Wushuang said. Understood. Abysmal Saint Master and the rest nodded. Jian Wushuang transmitted for Jian Yi to rush for the Red Dragon Sanctuary. Once everyone was there, they split up. They divided themselves into 3, watching 3 parts of the Red Dragon Sanctuary. Red Dragon Sanctuary was a large sanctuary after all, with vast lands. 3 teams made it easier to take care of. Coupled with various wormholes all over the Red Dragon Sanctuary, the 3 teams simply guarded the 3 largest wormholes. Red Dragon Sanctuary transmitted messages to all almighties and some real gods as well, especially those experts that had guarded cities for years. They were to report to him directly if they were to encounter anything wrong within the city, or if the Black Water Dragon appeared, or if they felt a wave of coldness approaching them. From there, the team guarding that region would rush there immediately. That wouldn't guarantee they would catch the Black Water Dragon, but it would certainly increase their chances of doing so. Jian Wushuang and the rest waited quietly. They did not wait for too long. 3 years later, the Black Water Dragon appeared again, attacking a city. That city fell within Jian Wushuang's guarding domain and he rushed over as soon as he could. But he was still too slow, the Black Water Dragon had just left. As he looked over the silent city now frosted in ice, Jian Wushuang could only shake his head and sigh. 2 years later, the Black Water Dragon appeared again in Jian Wushuang's territory, but Jian Wushuang did not reach it in time. Just another year later, the Black Water Dragon appeared in Jian Yi and Jian Air's territory, but it ended up the same. Since Jian Wushuang and the rest had split up, the Black Water Dragon had attacked thrice. 3 different cities, but they could never catch up in time. 3 times we've failed thrice, Red Dragon King sighed. We don't have a choice. The sanctuary is simply too wide. We may be able to split ourselves into teams, then move around via wormholes, but those wormholes don't reach there directly. We still need to change along the way. That takes a lot of time, Abysmal Saint Master sighed. No rush, we may have missed 3 times. But luck simply was not on our side. For the black water dragon was simply too far from us. I don't believe its luck will last long, Emperor Bai said. Red Dragon King and the rest nodded. Indeed, like how Red Dragon King had managed to encounter the black water dragon previously. Though their chances of catching the black water dragon had increased as they had split into teams, they still needed some luck. Right. Have you realized the black water dragon's appetite is growing? Jian Wushuang suddenly said. Of course, it used to appear once every few decades or so, then every 5 years, then 3, now it appears every year. Seems like it fancies how our cultivators taste, Red Dragon King said. The bigger its appetite, the sooner it'll die. Wait till I use its bones for soup, Emperor Bai snorted. The few elites of the Sanctuary Alliance, along with Jian Wushuang's 2 sword servants, continued to wait along the Red Dragon Sanctuary. A vast plain, an endless plain. On the plain, an eerie man in black armor was walking forward slowly. His pace was slow, holding a tree branch to act as his walking stick. He had trouble walking. On the shoulders of this eerie man was a small black snake. Upon closer look, the black snake was covered in dark scales and had a little horn on its head. Suddenly, the snake hissed coldly. The eerie man stopped in his tracks and looked towards the small black snake. You're hungry again? The eerie man laughed casually. The black snake on his shoulders had an eerie gaze in its eyes. Okay, I know you've been holding up previously. I'll let you eat till you're contented now. There should be a cultivator city in front. Come back early. The eerie man instructed. The snake hissed excitedly and slid off the eerie man's shoulder. The small snake morphed into a bolt of lightning and headed for the city nearby. The eerie man smiled, and he sat down with his eyes shut as if he was waiting. After a while, the black snake appeared in front of the giant city. The city was one of the largest ones within the Red Dragon Sanctuary, with countless cultivators, and an almighty. The little black snake could not contain its excitement. Suddenly, Wong! The small black snake's body was expanding at an alarming rate. Instantly, it became an enormous ancient flood dragon. Dark scales covered all over it. It exuded an eerie aura and revealed its 2 sharp and cold fangs. Immediately, a terrifying coldness rolled over the city. The entire city shook. Jian Wushuang and the others who had been waiting within the Red Dragon Sanctuary had received the news. The black water dragon was back. Again? It's only been half a year. Jian Wushuang was the first to receive the news, and at the same time he knew where the black water dragon was. A vast star map appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Divine Blade City, here. Jian Wushuang looked at one of the cities in the star map. It's within Emperor Bai's domain, and he's not too far from it as well. He'll only need to jump through 2 wormholes to reach it within half an hour. Half an hour. Half an hour was extremely long for a slaughter. But the black water dragon would definitely need some time to devour all the cultivators within the Divine Blade City. He should be able to make it. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists and headed for Divine Blade City. He was too far from the Divine Blade City. Even if he rushed through wormholes, he would need to change constantly, and that would take some time. He could only depend on Emperor Bai. Emperor Bai naturally rushed over to Divine Blade City as soon as he could. The enormous Divine Blade City was completely covered in ice and frost as the aura of coldness rolled over the city. Countless cultivators could sense the danger and started running for their lives, but they were no means faster than that cold breeze. In the end, all the cultivators froze like sculptures. The hidden Almighty had no way to resist it either. The black water dragon opened its mouth once again, but there was no more coldness, only a terrifying swallowing power. The swallowing power sucked in countless numbers of frozen cultivators. Bizarrely, the buildings and trees in the city were unmoved. The black water dragon obviously only wanted cultivators. More than half of the cultivators had already been eaten up within a moment of time, yet it continued to devour. But at that moment, within a hidden space in Divine Blade City, a bright light lit up, and a figure stepped out of the wormhole, immediately appearing at the void above the city. As he looked around, Emperor Bai only saw the frozen city, and that black water dragon devouring the human cultivators in a frenzy. A great murderous intent rose from Emperor Bai. Beast! Emperor Bai roared and immediately appeared in front of the black water dragon. The black water dragon could sense something, and its cold eyes flashed across. It shook its giant head around, replacing the terrifying swallowing power with the previous aura of coldness. The devastating aura of coldness could freeze even an ordinary great emperor. Even second-stage great emperors could do nothing but protect themselves from such coldness. But the black water dragon was now facing Emperor Bai. Emperor Bai was recognized as the strongest within the eternal chaotic world. Even though Jian Wushuang's powers may have exceeded Emperor Bai's after his opportunity, but he had not displayed them in front of others, therefore maintaining Emperor Bai's position as the ultimate alpha. HNGH, a simple sneer roared across the heavens like thunder. Boundless golden divine power rolled over the lands and formed a giant golden divine power sea. The golden divine power sea was in full swing, destroying the black water dragon's aura of coldness upon contact. Emperor Bai was situated at the core of the golden divine power sea. With a clench of his right fist, boundless golden divine power was concentrated in his hand. Hong! A brutal punch was let out. The black water dragon did not know how terrifying Emperor Bai was. At that moment, it opened its mouth and revealed its sharp fangs. It had intended to bite and crush Emperor Bai to death. Pong! A loud bang, then a crackling sound, as if something sharp had burst. Emperor Bai's fist full of divine power had struck one of the black water dragon's fangs. That terrifying power immediately broke its fang, leading to a painful howl on the black water dragon's side, blood gushing out of its wound. The black water dragon's body was also blasted far away. After it had recomposed itself, its eerie eyes exposed a trace of fear. It was apparent that it had truly learnt how horrifying the human cultivator in front of it was. Show! Without hesitation, the black water dragon turned into a dark flowing light and frantically attempted to escape. Escape? Not on my watch. How could it be that easy? Emperor Bai said coldly. At that moment, divine power rushed out of Emperor Bai's body, expanding the already vast golden divine power sea, encompassing the black water dragon as well. From the sea, golden hands rushed out and grabbed the black water dragon from all sides. Some of it caught the black water dragon's tail, some caught its body, some caught its foreclaws. The golden hands pounced on the black water dragon, giving it no chance to escape. Ho! Ho! The black water dragon let out a frenzied howl, filled with anger, but also with fear. Evidently, the black water dragon sensed a life and death crisis, and frantically roared for help. Sure enough, after it roared, at a plain not far from the Divine Blade City, the eerie man in black armor, who had been sitting down, opened his eyes suddenly. Crap! The eerie man immediately got up and rushed for the Divine Blade City in front of him. Previously, the eerie man had walked the plain at a pathetic speed, but now he was zooming. In the Divine Blade City, Emperor Bai's murderous intent was strong. Under the boundless golden divine power sea, the black water dragon had nowhere to escape. Emperor Bai struck it again and again, forcing the black water dragon to use its own body to block the attacks. Though the dragon's body was tough, it was not at its peak. Emperor Bai's attacks were strong and merciless, leaving the black water dragon severely damaged and scarred. Beast, die! Emperor Bai did not show any mercy and struck the black water dragon again and again. The black water dragon was wailing in pain. It was obvious that it had reached its limit at that moment. Stop! A roar echoed across the heavens. An eerie black streak of light carrying strong destructive power came bursting out, instantly breaking the golden arms holding the black water dragon down. Without the golden hands holding it back, the black water dragon roared excitedly and made its way to the source of that previous roar. Over there, the eerie man in black armor had a somber face, as a devious aura rose from him. The intensity of that aura was enough to make any ordinary cultivator shiver in fear. You finally showed up? Emperor Bai was not surprised by the entrance of another person. He knew from Jian Wushuang that there was an ancient-era expert behind the Black Water Dragon. Without a doubt, he was the one. Hiss! Hiss! The Black Water Dragon revealed an aggrieved look in front of the Eerie Man. The Eerie Man looked at the Black Water Dragon and saw the scars and broken fang. He was devastated. How dare you beat up Scaly like this? You must have a death wish. The Eerie Man glared at Emperor Bai with murderous intent. Ridiculous! Emperor Bai, on the other hand, sneered. The golden divine power C rose once again, now heading straight for the Eerie Man. Behind Emperor Bai, a large and magnificent golden shadow appeared out of thin air. The golden shadow was 99,000 feet high, and a majestic aura surrounded it. Emperor Bai made his move. Die! The Eerie Man made his move as well, stepping out and instantly forming a large and ominous vortex. The ominous vortex spread out for miles, swallowing everything around it. Everything that the golden divine power C touched in the ominous vortex devoured. In a blink of an eye, the Eerie Man and Emperor Bai collided in the middle of Divine Blade City. Both of them did not use any divine weapons, only their fists. Both of their fists, each containing earth-shattering destructive powers, collided. Pong! The earth split apart. Boundless divine power was destroying everything around it. The waves of that terrifying shock rolled over every corner of the city. As the ripples swept over, the void started to collapse. Beneath their feet, the enormous Divine Blade City, countless palaces and taverns were crushed into rubble, then into powder. One collision was all it took to make the entire city disappear. At the center of the terrifying power, the Eerie Man with murderous intent lifted his head and looked at Emperor Bai in surprise. It was no wonder he was surprised. The opponent's fist was amazingly strong, evidently stronger than him. Hong! The heavens roared. The Eerie Man was blasted backwards. He retreated from the center of Divine Blade City, all the way to the outskirts of it. After he had recomposed himself, he could not help but look at his right hand. His hand was now numb, tingling pain coming from the inside of his bones. So powerful, close to a chaotic divine demon. The Eerie Man's gaze turned solemn. He fell quiet for a while, before asking, "If I'm not wrong, you are that Emperor Bai, right?" To him, at that era, under the huge restrictions placed on the earth, only Emperor Bai could demonstrate such power. Yes. Emperor Bai admitted it directly. As Emperor Bai admitted to his identity, the Eerie Man's face turned sour. He was an ancient era expert and had been a powerful one back during the ancient era. But under the heavy restrictions placed on this earth, he could not demonstrate much at all, to the extent where he had some reservations against going against the chaotic realm Emperor Bai. The collision proved that Emperor Bai was invincible in the current era. Even he had to concede. After thinking of that, he sighed and said coldly, "I concede for today. Scaly, let's go." The Eerie Man had no intention of continuing his fight with Emperor Bai. He was angered by what Emperor Bai had done to his Black Water Dragon, but he had no choice but to escape. However, Emperor Bai would never let him get what he wanted. "You want to go? How could it be that easy?" Emperor Bai said coldly. Immediately, the golden divine power C rushed madly for the Eerie Man once again. That completely enraged the Eerie Man. "Emperor Bai, I no longer wish to get back at you for hurting my mount. You really think I'm afraid of you?" The Eerie Man was furious. If he could demonstrate his full fighting power like back in the ancient era, he would not even take Emperor Bai seriously. Even true chaotic divine demons were nothing in his eyes. He had already made concessions against ants like him, but he was not willing to let him off. Emperor Bai could not be bothered to talk. The golden divine power C immediately rushed back towards him, covering himself completely in golden divine power. His body soared sky-high, soaring to about 100 feet tall. A thick golden light shimmered on his enormous body. The golden shimmer looked like powerful golden armor. Emperor Bai's already aggressive aura grew even stronger. The 9-star armor? The Eerie Man frowned. Things did not end with the golden armor. A boundless aura rolled from the golden shadow behind Emperor Bai, turning into Golden Emperor. The Golden Emperor overlooked everything coldly. This is? The eerie man's face changed suddenly and had his eyes dead set on the enormous golden emperor. He knew what secret skill Emperor Bai was using. The Punisher God. The eerie man was a big shot in the ancient era, so he had seen things, and naturally he recognized the two secret skills Emperor Bai had demonstrated. The golden armor Emperor Bai was wearing was the 7-star Black Sex 9-star armor, and had been cultivated to the golden armor scripture. It was an impressive secret skill, but within the eerie man's comprehension. It was possible to cultivate the 9-star armor to golden armor scripture if large amounts of resources were used in the current era. But when he saw the enormous golden emperor overseeing everything, the eerie man was stunned. The Punisher God. He recognized the secret skill Punisher God instantly. It was a formidable secret skill, although not as high in level as the 9-star armor, but its fame well exceeded the armor back in the ancient era. It was famed not for its abilities, but its harsh cultivating requirements. Even back in the absolute beginning divine world, in the ancient era, there had been few people that were qualified to even learn the secret skill. By rights, no one should even have been able to learn it in the current era, not even Emperor Bai. Damn it, Emperor Bai's already very strong, and he has the 9-star armor and Punisher God with him? No wonder people call him invincible. The eerie man's face was very sour. Even for him, he had to admit, he was no match for Emperor Bai under the restrictions placed on the earth. And Emperor Bai had no mercy. The enormous golden emperor looked down, while Emperor Bai in golden armor looked extremely menacing. Punisher's hell. Rumble, the enormous golden emperor suddenly moved, and at that moment it was as if the sky was about to collapse. Endless golden divine power C from all corners concentrated in the giant emperor's palm and was pushed out. Instantly, the golden divine power C set off a huge golden wave, going in for the eerie man and black water dragon from all 4 directions. Terrifying destructive power, enough to make a 3rd stage great emperor shiver in fear, was erupting from the golden wave. The eerie man's face darkened. An eerie aura instantly surged from him, releasing a thick nether light. The black water dragon appeared beneath its feet, coldness blown from its mouth, freezing everything in sight with the eerie man's nether light. The void froze up and formed indestructible ice, blocking the giant golden wave from sweeping them away. As the golden wave swept over, the ice started collapsing. The eerie man and black water dragon were obviously struggling under the impact of the golden wave. Emperor Bai's pupils shrank slightly at the sight of that. This man must have been an elite expert during the ancient era, at least above a chaotic divine demon, maybe even stronger than Blood Emperor. Even though he's restricted by the heavens and earth, his fighting power is still much stronger than Kaiser Blood's. In terms of fighting power, he must be at a half-step divine demon by now. Emperor Bai murmured. The same restrictions placed on everyone caused ancient-era experts to only demonstrate the same level of power, but the same power would turn into different levels of fighting power in different hands. Like Jian Er and his 2 brothers. Because they were only chaotic divine demons at their peak, so they were only able to demonstrate 3rd stage great emperor fighting powers after the restrictions. But the eerie man in front of him was beyond chaotic divine demon in his prime, and therefore he could still demonstrate half-step divine demon fighting powers. Of course, the scariest person was still Emperor 13. He used his own power to shake and move the restrictions, making him a half-step divine demon, then used that power to fight actual chaotic divine demons. I may have the complete Punisher God's secret skill that increases my power immensely, but I don't think it's possible to take him down today. But I must at least kill the snake. Emperor Bai was determined. The eerie man and his black water dragon were still struggling beneath the golden wave. At that moment, the golden emperor behind Emperor Bai released a shiny golden light once again. With the thought of Emperor Bai's mind, the golden emperor's hands moved at the same time. At that moment, the 2 golden hands stretched and enlarged indefinitely, one hand blocking the sun, the other enveloping half of the world. 2 hands surrounded the void. Those 2 hands gradually closed in on the eerie man and his dragon. Punish, destroy. Emperor Bai let out a loud roar. The terrifying powers from the golden emperor's palms were released and spread all over the land. As they were closing, the entire void got locked down. Within the void, crap! The eerie man's expression changed. He could feel the time-space around him being locked down. He could not escape. Not just him, but his dragon as well. The two golden hands gradually closed in. They seemed slow, but the terrifying powers they had caused the eerie man to tremble in fear. Hong! The golden emperor's palms finally closed in. The center void naturally was crushed into bits by the palms. Emperor Bai stood there emotionlessly as he watched a nether light burst out from the void. A hole was made, piercing through one of the golden hands as a figure came out of it. It was obviously the eerie man. As he reappeared above the void, his body was trembling hard. Emperor Bai's hit had been terrifying, but he was a big shot from the ancient era after all. It had injured him, but it was not enough to kill him. But his black water dragon exploded on impact with the palms and turned into a bloody mist instantly. Scaly! My Scaly! The eerie man was trembling, his face all twisted. Dead. His dragon had been accompanying him since the ancient era. It had fought alongside him and survived the ancient era battles. He was like a brother to him. It did not die in the insane ancient era battles, but had died in Emperor Bai's hands. The eerie man had completely lost it. Emperor Bai! Emperor Bai! The eerie man glared at Emperor Bai with his bloodshot eyes. The hatred in his eyes was earth-shocking. I'll remember today. Not for long. I'll make sure you'll pay for this. 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. You just wait. His wailing roar resonated across the land, and the frenzy within the roar did not seem to fade away. After saying that, the eerie man escaped. As he watched the eerie man leave, Emperor Bai frowned but had no intention of chasing him. Not because he did not want to, but because the enemy had already used a secret skill to escape. He was too fast for Emperor Bai to catch and kill. Show! A figure appeared beside Emperor Bai. It was Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took quite some time rushing over from his own domain. By the time he reached it, he only managed to catch a glimpse of that eerie man escaping with hatred in his heart. Jian Wushuang took a glance at that eerie man, then looked over towards Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang's gaze shifted. He noticed the 9,900,000 feet tall Golden Emperor behind Emperor Bai. The Golden Emperor's aura was one even he dared not underestimate. Emperor Bai, this is a secret skill? Jian Wushuang was confused. It is. Emperor Bai nodded. As he retracted his aura, the Golden Emperor gradually faded into nothing as well. It's called the Punisher God. I learnt it in the first era. Unfortunately, I did not receive the entire secret skill and could not perform its full power until Emperor 13 passed it to me. Impressive. Jian Wushuang was impressed. Emperor Bai was already very impressive with his inverse cultivation's 7th-step divine powers, along with his rules of order, making him the strongest amongst great emperors. With the 9-star armor and Punisher God, he was almost divine demon powers. Why envious? Emperor Bai looked at Jian Wushuang interestingly. A bit. Jian Wushuang nodded. Regardless of the 9-star armor or Punisher God, they were all ancient era secret skills and Emperor Bai had them both. Of course, Jian Wushuang was envious. You envy me? I envy you. Emperor Bai laughed. Your inverse cultivation gives you a great advantage over others, along with your perfect ancient god clan bloodline. Your secret skill of body refinery is very terrifying as well. In terms of divine power, holy body, you are stronger than me, with many tricks up my sleeve, maybe even stronger than my 2 secret skills. Indeed, Emperor Bai had his advantages. Jian Wushuang had his as well. The mountain river map and soul-swallowing pearl alone were enough to make Emperor Bai envious. I put in a lot of effort into these 2 secret skills. The 9-star armor is easier to learn with enough time and especially resources. After the eternal chaotic world stabilizes, I'll pass it to you. For the Punisher God, the cultivating requirements are too harsh. I managed to learn it due to pure luck. Even though you're more gifted, you won't be able to learn it in the current eternal chaotic world, Emperor Bai said. Jian Wushuang shrugged his shoulders. He knew they were tough to learn, but he had no intention of learning it from the very beginning. Emperor Bai was overthinking. But at that moment, show. Show! Show! 5 figures appeared at the same time. They were Gen Air, Gen E, Red Dragon King, Abysmal Saint Master, an underworld god who had rushed from the other domain. They saw the rubble of what was the divine Blade City, and felt some remnants of power in the nearby void. They were stunned. Lord Emperor Bai, Sword Emperor, how was it? Where's the Black Water Dragon? The Red Dragon King asked. The Black Water Dragon died by my hand, but I only managed to injure the ancient era expert behind it. He took a great sense of hatred when he left. He will try to have his revenge soon enough, Emperor Bai said. Red Dragon King, Abysmal Saint Master, and the others were elated when they heard the Black Water Dragon was dead. As for revenge, haha, revenge? Getting revenge against Emperor Bai in this era? Ridiculous. Red Dragon King sniggered. He was absolutely confident in Emperor Bai's abilities. Indeed, revenge against Emperor Bai is a death wish, Abysmal Saint Master said. I'm not afraid of revenge. Even though these ancient era experts were good, as long as they are not as powerful as Emperor 13 or Blood Emperor, or make up some other kind of opposing blood formation, no one can stop me. I'm afraid he'll take his revenge on the Eternal Chaotic World and Sanctuary Alliance instead. Emperor Bai frowned. He is an ancient era expert after all. No one can stop him except Emperor Bai and me. If he is determined to get his revenge, it will get messy, Jian Wushuang said. The Sanctuary Alliance just needs to be more careful. We'll deal with it when it comes. In this era, we are the rulers, and they are nothing more than old geezers. The era belongs to us, not them. You're right. The era is ours, not the ancient era experts. Emperor Bai, Red Dragon King, and the others nodded in agreement. After settling the Black Dragon, Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai left .as for the Cold Man. He escaped. There was a possibility that he would take revenge. However, it is not possible for Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai to be on guard all the time. They gave the command to Sanctuary Alliance to track his location. If he was found, Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai would go and take care of him. Within a secluded mountain dwelling in the Red Dragon Sanctuary, the Cold Man in black armor stood there, his face twisted with anger. He was like an enraged beast. Emperor Bai, you wait. I will not make life easy for you. His voice reverberated in the mountain dwelling. A month later, a figure approached the mountain dwelling. It was an elder with white hair. He had blurry vision and he looked like he had been through many ups and downs in life. Is this the place? He looked at the mountain in front of him. He had found the presence of the mountain dwelling after he had used his soul power to scan the area. He then started to walk towards the mountain dwelling. Within minutes, he was in the interior of the mountain dwelling and saw the Cold Man. The man looked up with a twisted face filled with savagery. The white-haired elder took a cold breath and greeted, "Greetings, Lord Jian. I am Chu He." The elder was wondering what had happened and why Lord Jiao was so angry and crazy. Chu He originated from the ancient past and was one of the subordinates of the Cold Man. During the ancient past, he had followed the Cold Man for many years. It was rare to see the Cold Man so angry and crazy. It felt like the Cold Man was about to go to extremes to achieve something. Chu He, how long were you awake? The Cold Man, Old Monster Jiao, looked at Chu He and asked casually. About 2,000 years, Chu He answered respectfully. Many of those who were in slumber around you awakened too, right? Old Monster Jiao asked randomly. Yes, some of them have already awakened. Chu He nodded his head and replied. That's good. Old Monster Jiao nodded his head. Does my lord have any commands? Chu He asked, curious. Scaly died, Old Monster Jiao said suddenly. What? Scaly? Lord Scaly died? Who? Who had the courage to kill Lord Scaly? Chu He turned pale and questioned. Scaly was the rider of the man in front of him. The man in front of him treated Scaly like he was a true brother. How could his lord not be angered and go crazy if Scaly died? Emperor Bai from this era killed Scaly. I will not allow him to continue living. However, the restrictions of heaven and earth are too great and I cannot handle him alone. I need some helpers and I want you to find some for me, Old Monster Jiao said directly. So that is the case. Lord, the number of experts that have awakened and I can contact is limited. Furthermore, some of these experts are not your subordinates. If you want them to follow your orders might be. He took a deep breath and said solemnly, I understand. Tell them, I will give those who help me one divine demon nirvana elixir after we return to the absolute beginning divine world. Old Monster Jiao said. Divine demon nirvana elixir? He was shocked. Divine demon nirvana elixir had been an extremely high-level elixir back in the ancient past. This type of elixir was extremely useful for any experts in the divine demon realm as it could make them much more powerful. However, back in the ancient past or the absolute beginning divine world, this elixir was extremely rare and most experts in the divine demon realm would not have been able to get it. Now, Old Monster Jiao was giving one of this elixir to those who were willing to help him deal with an expert in the chaotic realm. After taking a deep breath, he said, Don't worry, Lord. I will go and contact those experts in the divine demon realm now. With your reward, I can guarantee at least 10 experts from divine demon realm who will come and help you. Only about 10? Old Monster Jiao frowned, displeased. Lord, as you know, those who were in that battle and did not manage to escape this place were mostly injured or even killed. Their blood essence was forcefully absorbed by that formation. Many of them died during their long slumbers, or will never be able to wake up anymore. Even if there is an opportunity to leave this place now, there are not many who have managed to awaken from their slumber. Within a short period of time, I can only contact these many, he said. He was speaking the truth. Not many of the experts from the ancient past who were in slumber awakened. This was why the eternal chaotic world was so peaceful. If all the experts who were in slumber could awaken when they wanted to, there would be chaos within the eternal chaotic world. Understood. Old Monster Jiao nodded his head. Oh yes, my lord, while I was talking to one of the experts in the divine demon realm, I got news that Lord Xianxia also awakened. He said suddenly. Xianxia? That brat? Old Monster Jiao raised his eyebrows. Xianxia was an expert who had surpassed the divine demon realm. Xianxia was nothing compared to Old Monster Jiao in his prime. However, given the effect of the restrictions of heaven and earth, an expert above the divine demon realm would have similar fighting power to him. Find a way to contact Xianxia and ask him to help me, Old Monster Jiao commanded. I should be able to find him. I will try my best. However, you pissed Lord Xianxia off before, hence. He looked at Old Monster Jiao carefully and said, Old Monster Jiao did not get angry. Back in the ancient past, Old Monster Jiao indeed looked down on and pissed Xianxia off before. This was because Xianxia was nothing compared to him back then. Now it was different. Tell him that I will owe him a favor if he agrees to help. If he agrees, I will return him the favor after we return to absolute beginning divine world. However, if he refuses, I will use all the power I have to kill him after we return to absolute beginning divine world as he will have angered me. Old Monster Jiao said coldly.